Hello and welcome to my short video of the MTech Racing power steering kit. First of all, a quick view of what you will receive. So we have the power steering motor, lower UJ, steering ECU with the controller, the main power feed wiring, which will have a maxi fuse, a 50 amp maxi fuse in there. This being the adjustment knob that has already been fitted for controlling the sensitivity of the column. So, first job, over to the car. Is going to be removing the old steering column. Pretty straightforward job. The only problems you're going to get is when removing this bolt. Luckily for me, on this one it hadn't been snapped. Now if it has, you will be left with this lip in there. Now the best way is able to cut a groove, get a big flat screwdriver. This may be enough to get it out. Getting some mole grips on it, also a good way of getting it out. Worst case, cut it out, but it shouldn't come to that. So once you have your column out, you will need to then remove your steering lock. Again, this hasn't got the snap bolts snapped off. Now when they are snapped, again, small problem, but it is resolved easily by cutting a slot along here with an hacksaw or a cutting disc in the grinder. Big flat screwdriver, 9 times out of 10 they come out. Worst case, you're going to have to drill them out, but a good slot often does the job. Okay, so then once on the bench, you've got your new lock fitted to the motor. The plastic cowling, if you're using this, will need modifying. As you can see, I've had to cut out around this edge and remove where the screw fittings. This is because when it is fitted to the column, I'll show you this one, it is a little fatter due to the size difference, so we need to get the clearance. This bolt can no longer be used, but it fixes well using the original two at the top. So fitting it back in is fairly straightforward. It fits on the same mountings with a bolt through the top, and the lower UJ, again exactly the same as a Mini. The extra support, which is this bar here, which I will show you in the car, is an added support which will be fastened to the pedal box. I'll just go over to the pedal box and show. So on this car I have already drilled the pedal box, and if you can see, it is up there. Now what you need to do is, as I will show you, you need to fit the steering column in place, flip this bracket up, mark it with a marker pen, and then drill the hole. Now I have found the easiest way is a little cordless drill, one of these step drills, because they're very short, makes it easy to get in. Now you may be lucky because about half of the pedal boxes already have this hole. Although it is a square hole, it is it's already there, so we won't have to do this. Okay, so then there's a little bit of wiring to do, and this consists of putting the main power feed. Now on this car it has the early solenoid, so this red wire goes directly to the battery feed. Then run it up. I come through the same original grommet on the car, through the bulkhead there, through into the cart. And what with this one having a dash, it is really easy. We're going to run it through and we're going to fit the ECU behind the dash. Now it's also worth noting, when I drilled the hole for the bolt, I cleaned it up. You can't really see. I cleaned it up, and this is going to be the earth point that we use for the main earth on the power steering. Right, so steering UJ, got to do this one-handed. Steering UJ onto the rack. Next job. Slide the steering column onto the UJ, lift it up, into place. Just put the bolt in. Okay, so now I'm going to try and show you. A little bit awkward in this car because it's got extra speakers. Okay, so you can see it in there, the bracket, get the torch, up the back there, lines up with that hole in the pedal box. Now you may need to test fit this, mark the hole, then drill the hole. The bracket is slotted, so there's quite a bit of movement so we can get to where we want to go. So that's the kit in place. Also, whilst it's all loose, it's a good idea to check the height of your steering wheel when you're sat in the car, because we have a universal joint at the bottom. When it is all tight, this won't move, but if you wish to lift the steering wheel up or down, this can be done by loosening the U-bolts on the steering rack. So the U-bolts on the steering rack, behind here, one there, one on the opposite side, covered up by on this car. They need to be loosened. You can then move the steering wheel up and down. Once you're happy with the position, retighten the steering rack back up, tighten all the bolts up and check the position of your steering wheel. This also affects how the motor sits. 9 times out of 10 you'll be straight line through the column, through the UJ, down to the floor. But like I say, if you want adjusting, that's the easiest way to do it. And if your car's already had a lowering bracket, you may need to adjust this by doing that. Okay, so back to the wiring. This wire here is a main wire that I showed you connected to the battery power, the solenoid on the car. This be the starter motor or the separate start solenoid. This one here, coming from the grey plug, is the earth. This will need connecting to a suitable earth, often on the same earth connected to this. So as long as they both got a good ground, we're good. And then the other wire is this small red wire, and this needs to be ignition feed. So this car's a radio. I will use the ignition feed to the radio for this. Another easy accessible place is the brake light switch, just on the pedal box, which is easy to get to. Piggyback terminal on there, like that. Comes with the kit. Failing that, it's through the bulkhead to the fuse box and on there. If you wish to put an inline fuse, a small 3 amp fuse will suffice. And it's also worth noting, if you want to turn the ECU on and off, this turning the steering off, if you want to resort back to normal steering, no power steering, you put an inline switch into this fuse and it will act as a switch to turn the power for the ECU on and off. This stays permanent power all the time. It is only active until this has power to it. The controller, I've chose to put in the cowling. Straightforward, white and purple wire, white and purple wire, connect the two together. Once it's in the car, job's a good one. Can be extended if needed, not a problem.